Today, my final review of the Coros VERTIX 2, a fantastic sports watch that I've used for a few weeks and a very awesome watch in a lot of regards. And it has one fantastic feature. So let's check out what the Coros VERTIX 2 is, what it is, and how it compares to some other sports watches I've been testing, namely the Garmin Epix, which is an unfair advantage to the Garmin Epix based off its screen alone. But let's take a look and see how it stacks up. Today on the channel, we're going to review and give my final verdict on the Coros VERTIX 2. Had this for a few weeks, and I've done several activities with it in the last couple of weeks, both up and down mountains, out rucking around town, and a few runs. So today I'm going to give you what I think about the Coros VERTIX 2 and where it fits in the wearable world that I've explored lately with the Whoop, the Apple Watch Series 7, the Garmin Epix, and then the Coros VERTIX 2. So I've used all these watches and wearables in the last couple of weeks. And so this is what I think about the Coros VERTIX 2 and where it fits in the grander scheme of things you can put on your wrist and record activities. Let's get to it. So overall, where does this fit between the Apple Watch, the Garmin Epix 2, and the Coros VERTIX 2? Where does that fit in all those things? Well, first of all, it doesn't really compare directly with either of those two wearables because of it's just not designed to be a smartwatch. It is a fantastic outdoor enthusiast, do everything sort of a watch, very rugged design, and the battery is by far its biggest highlight in terms of a wearable that you can put on your wrist. It definitely kicks the tail out of both watches. It's not even a direct comparison for an Apple Watch, but the Garmin Epix or the Fenix, because the screens are relatively the same size and technology, it definitely does a lot better than the Fenix. Now, I'm not going to do a walkthrough of all the features of the Coros VERTIX 2. Other people have done that and done direct comparisons. But this is from an Apple guy's perspective, what I think about the Coros VERTIX 2. And right off the top, the benefit of having a Coros VERTIX 2 in the world is the fact that it's a disruptive technology. I like the DJI Action 2 in the camera world because it does basically the same thing. It makes the other big companies analyze what they're doing and push the boundaries of what they're doing. It doesn't let them sit back on their heels and relax on what their current technology is. And I'm not saying that's what Garmin or GoPro are doing, but the DJI Action 2 does that to GoPro, and the Coros VERTIX 2 does that for Garmin. Why? Because this battery is a lot better than anything the Garmin has. So let's talk about a few other things. Some of the pros that you'll get out of Coros VERTIX 2. First of all, it's essentially the same weight as my Garmin Epix, which is a lot smaller. So the fact that this is a bigger watch, and it's made out of titanium, it's got sapphire glass, a very capable watch, and so it's very light in the features that you will get out of this. Again, the number one thing is being the battery. I have had this thing for just over a month now. Haven't charged it but once, and that was like the third day because it was kind of a third of the battery charge. It still has just under half. 30 days, just under half of its battery life left, and I've used it quite a few times outdoors to record activities ranging from anywhere from an hour to 2 hours outside. So the fact that it's still just under half is quite amazing. Now, the screen technology that it uses an LCD, so it's not the AMOLED display of an Apple Watch or the Garmin Epix. So for that reason alone, it's more of a direct comparison with the Fenix 7. Other things you're going to get out of it that are awesome. I've talked about the weight, talked about the battery life. And then my last pro is it's got multi-band GPS. And it does all the different Galileo, GLONASS, GPS satellite systems that it monitors. So that is a big plus. The fact that you get multi-band GPS. And it was one of the first watches that did that. Now it does very good, and in a little bit I'm going to show you comparison-wise, and we're going to zoom into a couple points to see how this did compare to the Garmin Epix and an Apple Watch in terms of GPS accuracy. Now some of the cons. My number one con about this watch really happens to be about the display. It's not nearly as bright as the Garmin Fenix 6 that I had from what I can remember. But then again, I've had this thing on full bright. It is a little tougher for me to see indoors, and of course outdoors is where an LCD display really shines, and it is easy to read, and you can obviously change the settings on it for different backgrounds. So it's really a very good watch for what it does LCD wise, and so you would have to compare this directly with the Fenix 7 to do a side-by-side comparison. But for me, I'm a bigger fan of the AMOLED display, so that's why I went with the Garmin Epix as my primary daily driver of a watch, even over the Apple Watch. Video on my Epix right here. But the screen technology is really the downer for me. And again, if you really wanted a very long endurance watch, whether it be backpacking or ultra endurance events, the Coros VERTIX 2 probably will be the number 1 or number 2, depending on what your feature set desire is in that realm. The notifications, and I've done other videos on notifications, that's kind of one of my primary things. If I'm going to wear this watch daily, I kind of care about the notifications come from my phone. And so I did a video about the notifications. You can see that here, but the notifications is lacking compared to other devices, but it is there. You can get essentially streamed whatever notifications are happening on your phone, and you can tailor them in the app. It says it has touchscreen. I haven't had very much luck with a touchscreen. It doesn't do full touchscreen like the Garmin Epics or Fenix 7s. It does allow you to scroll on some, but not all. So that's a feature that I think is not quite ready for prime time. It does have this side bezel, which allows you to scroll through pages, which I do like. I do enjoy that ability versus, you know, rolling through screens with the twisting of the bezel versus, or the twisting of this knob versus hitting a button. It does have less buttons compared to the Garmin devices, and that's something you would just get used to, no big deal. One of the biggest negatives I've found thus far is just transferring routes and data off of the device. First of all, transferring routes onto it can be done using GPX tracks, and that is something that you can do from any device, create it in another software program, and then upload them to the watch. I didn't really use it that often just because it was very cumbersome. I do like the fact that Garmin allows you to create routes right in the app or on the software desktop program and then just send it to your watch instantly. I also liked on the Apple Watch the ability to use Strava and create routes in the Strava. I think those two software environments are just a lot better in terms of creating routes. Now I can use those routes in here, but I then have to export it and then upload it to this, so it just became a little too cumbersome for me, not something I was a fan of, and so I didn't really even do it. So that's just something to consider if you're going to go with the Coros VERTIX 2. Exporting of data was also cumbersome. For a while there it was very automatic and it was going right into Strava like the rest of my devices, and I did pair Strava with the app on my phone because that's a step you have to do, and I did that no problem, and it did work a few times, but then after that it just wasn't doing it, and there was no real way to force that download of information that was in the app, but I couldn't get it to Strava or other product. Getting the data off of the watch into the app on the phone was pretty easy, and I did do that several times, and that was easy. It's just getting it out of there was a problem. I could actually go and see that it had last synced at a time. I tried to swipe down to make it force update and it just didn't do it. So really overall, the software product that you get with it on the phone is it's good, just not awesome, and has some work to do. And really, but Garmin is not that awesome at it either. Apple's obviously the gold standard. Garmin is improving. This is the Coros product is also getting better. And again, that's why this watch is important, because its software development has improved. The fact that it has maps and also the fact that its battery is just amazing is just the thing to push these other developers of products to the next level to make the Garmin better. Meanwhile, the Coros team, lighter, leaner, making things happen, will potentially pass them if they continue to accelerate their progress like they've done so far in the VERTIX 2. Now, what I cannot attest to really when it comes to the Coros VERTIX 2 is just an overall fitness profile that you get for 30 days. I just happened to get this watch at a bad time where I was really testing several wearables at the same time, so I could not dedicate a week or two to just wearing the device alone to see what it gives you an overall fitness profile. I'll give you a look here in just a couple seconds about what the watch or what the app provides, so you can look at to see what sort of data is in the workouts that I did recently. And I didn't do sleep tracking, so I don't know what the accuracy of that is. I'm kind of skeptical overall about sleep tracking accuracy. I didn't really like it in the Whoop 3 or 4.0, and I didn't notice a big difference in the Garmin. I have worn it a couple times. Just wearing big devices at night, something that's just not my style. All right, so with that, let's look at two things. Let's look at what the app provides in the Coros VERTIX 2, and then I'll show you some data comparing a couple of routes from the Apple, the Garmin, and the Coros. So let's take a look. First off, let's look at what the app provides. So here we are in the Coros app, and again, it's just a pretty good, the front page just tells you different stages, active energy, exercise time, etc. So if I were to wear this consistently, I would have more data in there. But again, I just don't have that information You can see the second button over is activities, and I do have several activities. We'll take a look at those. Really the one I want to show you is the most recent one where I hiked in Phoenix up Camelback Mountain, and it does a pretty good job. You can see that it shows you the a little God's eye view, a map view of where you went, and it gives you my workout time, average speed, calories, etc., my speed, my heart rate, and then the elevation profile, more on that later, and then the training effect that it provides. So that's pretty good, and I can also forward this data. That was how I got this comparison later. I used the send feature on this screen, and it just went to wherever I wanted to and outputted the GPX file. Next one over will show you the, there's my profile. Again, I didn't use the Evo Lab, really, or the race predictor, because I just didn't do enough activities of it. So really, to do a fair representation of this watch, I'd really have to wear it for 30 days and do some hardcore training. The heat maps, again, I don't have enough. My navigation route library is how I would upgrade or put things into the watch. Third-party apps, that's where I had Strava, and it shows last time it was synced. This happens to be on the 5th. That was over a week ago, and I really don't have any idea why it's not completely updating itself, and I just have not found a way for it to really force that. I even searched online, but you can see here it syncs with a variety of programs that you might use. The last part of the software here on the right is just the watch settings, GPS satellite data, the watch face. Pretty limited. You can't really do that much or have that many watch faces on there in particular. Firmware update and my route. It's just some other things you could upload. Didn't really experiment too much with those over the last couple of days because I really wanted to know how long this watch would last in terms of its battery, and then also its GPS and heart rate accuracy compared to other fitness devices, because that's really, the rest of this is just polished, can be updated. The software consistently changes or constantly changes. So really it came down to, what does the watch do for me compared to a Garmin or Apple Watch in terms of tracking my heart rate and GPS information. So let's go to that. All right, so you can see here I've got 5 different routes. We're just going to look through them very briefly just to show the difference. Again, I have an Apple, I've got the Garmin, and then I've got the Coros on there. You can see up this first activity, the heart rate data. Again, the red Apple, the orange because I've got the orange band, and then blue for Garmin on all these charts. So you can see big disparity in heart rate. I can't tell you which one's which because the Apple Watch was sort of off on its own. That's that straight line on the top. And then later on, as we went through the activities, the Apple and Garmin synced up. The Coros went on its own, and then the Apple and Garmin stuck together, and the Coros in orange was sort of on its own little path there. Speed, again, not a big difference there. Not enough data to really make any conclusions there. Elevation on all of these, you'll see, is just dramatically off. And really, you'll see the same split on the intervals that each of those records data, and you can see they're just off by the same amount. Not really overly impressed really with all those. The next one shows you a little bit more difference, and this one I add in yellow the whoop. And again, the heart rate data for the Coros is just way off compared to my other data sources, which seem to be synced up throughout. And this is a Whoop 4.0. The Coros is in orange, and then I've got the Garmin and the Apple. And again, you can just see they're all sort of synced up reasonably, but for whatever reason, heart rate data for the Coros just is off on its own. And then obviously the Whoop is sort of problematic as well. All these others, elevation, again, you can see the Coros is high, everything else is fine, but again, you get that same split. For my third data set, we can see things sort of correlate. In this one, I would say the Garmin is out to lunch, but everything sort of sticks within a range, I would say there. You can see the Coros drop off here in about 54 minutes. The Apple and Garmin are synced up. So, there I would pick the Coros is not as accurate as the others in just terms of heart rate. Elevation, in this example, the Apple was high, the Coros is in the middle, the Garmin was low, and then again you can see they kind of switch throughout. That was the only time I've seen that in any of my data there. My fourth data set, I would say heart rate for this one is pretty much synced up. The Coros went off on its own a few times, but generally speaking was in line with everything else. So that was a good test there. Really everything was synced up. Elevation, you can see that same general split Not really sure why that, generally speaking, happens. This last data set was, again, this was a hike up Camelback Mountain in Arizona and Phoenix, and so you can see heart rate data was pretty synced up. I only had 2 devices. I didn't have the Apple Watch. I just had the Garmin on one arm and the Coros on the other, so I don't have a tiebreaker here, so to tell which one is correct. Really don't have anything to tell the difference, but you could see a split somewhere. Not when my heart rate was climbing or high, but once it got lower, things sort of deviated right arm to left arm. I don't know. They were both in the same spot. So things were a little out of sync coming down the hill versus going up. Speed was all over the map. Nothing real conclusive there. The elevation profile you can see was pretty close, not exact. And then as we scroll in here and go up through some canyons, you can see that the overall both devices, really nothing to say about either one of them. I mean, yeah, they drift a little bit in between, but which one was not correct, I don't know. They're both relatively close as I hiked up through some of these lower canyon areas, and as you get to the top of the hill, things get a little wonky, and then up and back down. So really, nothing really conclusive. I think both devices are really accurate. I questioned some of the heart rate data, but heart rate information off your wrist is notoriously inaccurate compared to a chest strap. Just the way the technology is improving, but that's just something to consider. If you really want accurate heart rate data, getting it off your wrist is not the way to go. So that's it. That's my look at the Coros VERTIX 2. A very good, very functional watch. And if you really wanted the best battery and the most battery life of any device that you could find and use, then the Coros VERTIX 2 would be the winner. You'd really have to compare this to the Garmin Fenix 7 to see which one had the best features for you and overall fit, polish, use features, all those things. Why do you go to the Coros VERTIX 2? The battery. You really want an unbelievable battery that's going to outpace the other devices. The Coros VERTIX 2 is for you. The other thing you'd want to consider is the screen type and how you're going to use this daily. If you're a backpacker, no doubt this is going to be the watch for you. There you go. Hope you like that review. I've got some other wearable reviews coming up soon, mostly the Apple Watch Series 7 and hopefully the Apple Rugged, Adventure, whatever series they come out with in the future. That's the next big plan. I'll probably do a couple other videos on the Garmin Epix, as I've used it now for just over a month and change, and really kind of getting into the groove of that watch. So I'll probably put another video out there soon about some of my favorite aspects of the Garmin Epix to see if that's the right watch for you. So there you go. There's the what I think of the Coros VERTIX 2, a very fantastic sports watch. It might be the best watch for you depending on what your use case is, and if you really need that extended battery, then this would be obviously the best watch for you compared to everything on the market, because that watch with its battery is just unbelievable. Now it has some different shortcomings, but for most people those will be minor. Really, if you want that extra battery, the battery that's making Garmin probably rethink its entire battery strategy, and probably Apple as well, then go check it out. It's the Coros VERTIX 2. Let's continue to enjoy the not so awesome weather at the beach, but the beach nonetheless. And the fact that it's just become a disruptive technology to Garmin. That's why I'm a big, and then really the biggest, and then my other biggest, let's say. So why do you go with the Garmin